We are so thrilled to be partnering with Hinge. Hinge is the dating app designed to be deleted. As you all know, I'm a huge Hinge advocate as I met my partner of almost 3 years on the app. Even before meeting him, Hinge was always my go-to app because I met more relationship-minded people here and had some great dates. Clearly, I haven't been on the app for a little while, but I re-downloaded it to check out some of the new features. One that stood out to me was the voice prompt, my best friend's take on why you should date me, where your friend can hype you up. Not only does this make the profile creation less daunting, but it's not always easy to see your own green flags. So to test it out, I asked Yue some fun prompts to get her take on what I could put if I was dating again. So the first one, how long have we known each other? What was your first impression of me and how has that changed?
Julie and I have known each other for almost 10 years. My first impression of Julie was that she's very social, but I've learned that she has a lot more depth to her beyond the social butterfly that she is.
My next prompt, what do you think are my green flags?
I would say she's deeply loyal. She believes in love, curious mindset, and she is fearlessly ambitious.
And then last but not least, what kind of friend am I?
Julie is the kind of friend who will always have your back, no matter what.
Damn, that feels nice to hear. So download Hinge and try voice prompts today. Then find someone worth deleting the app for. I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
Welcome to Season 8 of the Dateable podcast. How? How do we get to 8 seasons, over 100 episodes, and over 1 million listens? All thanks to you, of course, for listening and supporting. We can't thank you enough. This season is insane. We have more controversial topics and amusing dating stories, but we also want to bring you ways to date differently. So I challenge you to listen to each episode with a lens of how does this episode make me date differently? Especially this premiere episode where a listener was brave enough to let us solicit feedback from 5 girls he's dated. Holy shit, it's good stuff. You know what else is good stuff? If you could leave us a review on iTunes, we would love your feedback and we want it to be immortalized forever. And if you have any dating related posts, just use the hashtag #StayDateable so we can stalk you. Okay, let's get on with the show. The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work or not. Each episode will not only offer you a new perspective on dating, but will also change the way you date. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating sociologist. You'll also hear commentary from my producer, Julie Krafchick, and other surprise co-hosts. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. Do you ever fantasize about going on dates and then doing an exit interview of sorts? Kind of like a survey at the end of the date to see how things went. That's always been my fantasy. And we have a guinea pig who has agreed to do this for us as an experiment. We have Jason in the house. I love our guest Jason already. One, because he's an avid listener of Dateable. So we got to give him props for that. Yep. And two, when we approached him with this idea, Jason was like, I'm down. Let's do it. Let's do it. This is just a little background about who he is. He's originally from Marin, has lived in San Francisco for just over 2 years. He's 28 years old, and described his relationship status pretty single and taking a dating sabbatical.
And then also single actively.
Okay, so taking
what is it?
taking a dating sabbatical and actively going on dates. It's just
hybrid
like a
single,
hybrid, pretty much
dabbling.
dabbling. Yeah,
Is there like a middle ground that we need to start doing?
This is what he wrote to us originally. I've been an avid listener of the podcast for years and have been on hundreds of first dates, but none of them have taken me anywhere, whether being ghosted, rejected, or not feeling the vibe. I'm looking how to change this. Sometimes I struggle to impress a girl right out of the gate. Am I not matching my profile? Should I be more assertive? These are questions I come to Dateable to solve. You've come to the right place. So we proposed to Jason the exit interview experiment where we contacted 5 of the girls that he's been on first dates with.
And basically, as soon as I contacted them, they were very open to doing this, which was awesome. Like pretty much all of them remembered you. They all wrote back within like the first like half an hour. Like,
yeah,
so
when Julie told me she got the girls, I'm like, okay, this podcast is going to happen.
Well, again, we appreciate, I think it's going to be a great learning, but have you ever done an exit interview at work?
I haven't. Then I didn't have like a formal process, but
Gotcha.
I've done many exit interviews at work.
There was this book that I read, and the name of it is totally escaping me right now, but it was all, like, this is where we got this idea. And it was based around women, so this is, I think, the first time from a male perspective. And she basically talked to so many different people that women had gone on dates with and tried to push it a little further to figure out what the real root causes of why these dates weren't amounting, and came up with themes from that. So this is kind of where this idea stemmed from, this like take on the work exit interview, but for dating.
And we've also taken on that methodology. So maybe, Julie, you want to go through the initial message you sent to these women?
Sure. Basically, I reached out and said, we're doing an episode that is like an exit interview to better understand one of our guests' dating patterns. He gave us your name as someone who we went out with recently, and we were wondering if we could do a 10-minute call to ask a few questions of why there wasn't a connection. Would love to have you help us with this. If you wouldn't mind, as this is an opportunity to give feedback so he can learn from it.
Yeah, so we didn't reveal who you were in that initial message. We were just kind of seeing if people were open.
But I think one of the things to note too is like when you do user interviews like at work, one of the best things is the gift of feedback. Like you can learn from feedback, you can improve your product, or in this case, your dating life.
Yeah, I'm an app of some sort.
You're in beta. We're going to get you. So anyways, I think feedback is a gift, and honestly, no one ever gets feedback on dates. So
very rarely.
So I guess to start, like, why these girls? Why did you give us their info of all the people you've gone on these
hundreds of first dates?
Unfortunately, I'm one of those people kind of with this pattern where if it didn't work out after the first date, I possibly would remove someone's number. Luckily, in the recent dates, I was able to find somebody where in the app there was the phone number.
Okay.
A little bit of based off of availability when I was able to find their contact.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense now based on what we heard. So paint the picture for us. When you're going on these hundreds of first dates, how would these dates end?
I was kind of going for the quantity over quality. Let's say I had a kickboxing class on Monday, a free date on Tuesday, staying at work late on Wednesday. I'd kind of like pick and choose my days of the week and then kind of pencil in these dates. And then I was mostly looking for like dive bars or locations possibly closer by to me. And based off of that kind of matching my schedule, I might have put myself at a disadvantage in not quite knowing the girl too well. And
so you're filling time slots here.
Yes.
Did you ever do the back-to-back date?
Only once in my life. And I like walked around the block a few times and I'm like, I hope the first girl doesn't see me as she's leaving.
Oh my God. So at the same place? You did it back to
next
back?
door.
Oh
my gosh,
you are
Jason.
optimizing your time.
It was in Los Gatos. It's a small town.
Oh,
there
okay.
you go.
But did you see any patterns of how these dates would end?
I'd always come to second guess myself if like I thought there was chemistry, but I didn't go in for a kiss. And then I'd sort of like possibly blame myself. But other times I was just like, like it was so short. One of us might have said we had work early, and then I just kind of like drifted on and like kind of maybe got the message, and that led me to like a next possible date.
So what were some of the challenges you faced while dating?
For me, which led me to wanting to be interviewed, I sort of might warm up to somebody later on, like a second date. I find it a little bit kind of upsetting when somebody that I give 1 hour time is able to judge if there's, I get this a lot, no romantic chemistry. So I think that like mounted a bit on me and like kind of the weight on my shoulders. So it led me to being unsure of how assertive I need to be on a first date or kind of like changing my character. And a lot of my friends would say like, you're like super authentic, friendly, warm, bubbly guy. But I just sort of, if it didn't work on one date, I might be a different person of some sort on another date. And that kind of led me to change.
What are you looking for?
As my mother would say, a nice Jewish girl. But I'm definitely, I know I want to be in a relationship. I had like a short phase of maybe like one night stands, but somebody just to work my way in doing like an activity I like, going to the botanical garden, a night out for dinner, a comedy club. Whether these are like friendly activities to start, I kind of like really want to put myself out there with somebody. And sometimes on a first date, I'm either a little anxious or too much of myself. I guess
Too much of yourself?
I think like I scare girls a little bit by like telling my life stories and things like that.
Are you inferring that, or did people tell you that?
Inferring.
Okay. And when you're talking about quantity over quality, does that mean you're not necessarily looking for a relationship? Are you just looking for activity partner, someone to hang out with?
I think mix. So now I definitely feel like I could commit to somebody, but I kind of get that like on to the next one. There's another like opportunity. Even if I think the term is called abundance mentality.
Yeah.
So you're just you're basically having quantity over quality because you feel like you need to fill your funnel up with a lot of people to find that person.
I could say that, yeah.
If that's the case, why come to us for this experiment when you can just fill up those time slots with first dates? Why is it important to pursue them further?
Yeah, I think I hit the wall like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, or even a little bit earlier, but I wanted to like stop going on dates for a while, which might have led me to like that dating sabbatical. I'd tell my friends like, oh my God, I got a first date with this girl tonight. And then it wouldn't go well. And then I kind of have to like have that, my own exit interview, or like, I call it like press conference. I'm like,
press conference.
So it didn't work out. I'll let you know when something better comes about. And it definitely did like kind of take a toll on me to a point, and want to figure out who I am. And I don't think I really enjoyed this sort of speed dating.
So we noticed all the women that you gave us contact for, you met them through Hinge. Is
Correct.
that your app of choice?
Well, I think Hinge is the relationship app of some sort. I've had like sort of short-term stays on like Tinder or Bumble.
Short-term stays. I love it.
And I just seen quality of people a bit stronger on there.
Okay. Julie loves Hinge.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
feel
people
the
love
same way,
Hinge.
yeah.
Okay. Before we reveal each girl's feedback to you, let's just go through some themes.
Yeah.
And we'll just go with the good first, okay? The good is, to start off, all the girls thought that you did not disappoint in person when they first saw you. No catfishing. They thought you were cute, genuine, sweet, good-natured, nice guy, good manners, asked a lot of great questions, great conversationalist overall. They thought you were, again, attractive, match your profile. Only 1 out of the 5 girls we talked to didn't feel chemistry, but the majority of them rated the date on a scale 1 to 10 between 5 and a 7. Okay. And then they were open to a second date or a longer date. Any reactions to that?
I definitely am happy that my pictures look like who I am.
Yeah.
I definitely put a lot of effort into that. I can easily recognize a dating profile where you can tell like the photo's a little blurry or it's outdated. So yeah, I'm happy about that. Conversationalist is really helpful because at times I kind of worry about like a pause of 2 to 3 seconds or allowing things to flow. So maybe I wasn't as rushed in my conversations.
I think a lot of them mentioned too, like they've had some really bad dates.
Yeah.
And they all were like, this was like a good, like an average
date.
to good date.
Yeah.
Like pretty much across the board.
Nothing-
Even the one that had no chemistry was like
So,
still a good date. Like overall.
had a good time. So let's start with each girl one by one, and we'll play for you their feedback, okay? Starting with girl number 1.
When he kind of first walked in, looked exactly like he had in his picture. I thought he was really cute, and then I felt like it kind of fell flat pretty quickly. I don't know whether it was that he really wasn't interested, if he didn't really know how to convey being interested. I feel like all of our conversations felt very forced, like that kind of thing where you're trying to come up with the next question. Yeah, there was no flow really. Like how I kind of knew it was bad was, I think kind of the minimum amount of time you could spend on a date is an hour, and that was, if our date was almost exactly an hour. Like the bartender came over to be like, "Do you guys want another round?" And he kind of said no, as no, we don't want that.
Oh.
And yeah.
Would you have stayed longer if he hadn't done that?
I would have, because I kind of feel like it takes people a while to warm up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of always very forgiving of the first half hour, because I've been with people who, after the first hour, they totally change. But the fact that, he didn't want a second drink and he didn't want to stay longer, I think was kind of an indication of, he didn't seem that into me. I think anybody kind of deserves 2 drinks. 1 drink feels very, I gave you the very, very minimum of my attention and time. And it's kind of like when the drinks are done, the date is done, it's how it feels. I think it's worth trying to get the second drink just to see if there's anything you didn't see in the first little bit. Again, maybe it just totally was not into me at all, but if I was giving this advice in general about dating, it would probably be keep your options open, at least give kind of the attitude that you're enjoying yourself, and try to give someone the benefit of the doubt and a little bit more time and energy. Yeah, I remember walking back into my door almost exactly an hour after I left for the date, and all right.
So then how did it end with him?
I think we had kind of an awkward hug outside the bar. And I kind of well, thanks for the drink. And this was fun, we'll do it again sometime. Nothing like that. Just kind of, okay, thanks.
So did he ever ask you out again?
No.
So if he had hypothetically been more let's go out again, or stayed for that second drink, would you have been interested in going out again?
Potentially. I think the vibe that I very much got from him was he was not interested in me.
Okay, what do you think, Jason?
Well, it's good to get the first one under the belt. I almost thought that the conversation on her end was short and subtle, and short and succinct, and that she wanted to leave a bit. Sometimes I pick up people glancing around, and if that's body language.
So did you think she was interested?
I felt she wasn't, and I'm usually not.
I hear she thought you weren't interested.
Mm-hmm.
So by you calling the date after, you thought you were doing her a favor? By saying, she said, when the waiter came around, she was surprised that you were
no more drinks.
Done.
Mm-hmm.
What was your thought process?
So I'll usually do my dates at 7:30 or 8. For me at my job, I don't get until about 10 a.m. But when it gets to 8:45 or 9, sometimes I just assume somebody has to leave.
Again,
assuming.
I know.
That's
It's in my head. Yeah,
that is super interesting.
And I rarely, as far as I know, a lot of girls will cut the cord and be like, I was great. I'm fine. I'm on this drink.
Yeah.
So knowing that somebody wanted a second drink, whoa, I didn't even...
So you were being preemptive in this. You were before she says no to a second drink, I'm just going to say no. We're going to go. We're going to get out of here. But were you interested in her?
There was enough in the conversation where I could have continued to talk. I thought it was one and done.
Yeah.
Is that because you didn't think she was interested?
I felt she was a little bit on the shy end. One thing I might want to tinker with in my dating game is even conversation. So when I start talking 75-25, I almost feel that it's already in the forced state.
Wow, you're so methodical about
Interesting.
it.
Interesting.
I'm a dating scientist.
Shall we go?
Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, dating scientist. I like that. Okay. So here is girl number 2.
No, I had good impressions. He confirmed, that day, he had asked me, if I had a favorite place in my area, which I didn't, but he recommended a favorite of his, so he was accommodating, where I was, because sometimes that's an issue. People expect you to go really far, and yeah, he was definitely aware of, where I was coming from and, the timing and everything. So we met at a bar. I was running a little bit late, so he was there, already, and he had already ordered a drink. So I sat down, and then I ordered a drink. I remember, like, a little bit confused about who was paying for it, which I'm happy to pay for my own drink, but typically, like, guys do, and so there was a little fumble there. He ended up paying for it, but I just remember it being a little bit awkward, and I think, like, some advice, if a guy wants to pay for something, he should be very clear and upfront about that, and if he doesn't, then he's not to be clear. Just communicate what your preferences are there. I think that's good feedback for every guy in any dating situation. He seemed like a very nice guy. He seemed a little less mature than me, a little more mature. I just remember him mentioning that he hangs out a lot with his coworkers. We're all, like, in their early 20s, and I'm closer to 30, and just a lot of, like, happy hours and just a lot of, like, kind of the things that typically, like, early 20 people would be doing with most of their time. It's still kind of the focus of his day-to-day. He had, like, recently gone to Portland or Seattle, and he had shown me some pictures from that trip, which was cool, but kind of interesting pictures of him, like, with something with flowers. I think that kind of shows his sense of humor and, like, his personality. And then I remember, like, the end of the day, it was a little bit weird. We were having, like, a nice back and forth conversation talking about work, I think talking about, like, a little bit like where we grew up, like, typical first date stuff. And then, like, I think he had grabbed his phone, and I saw the time, and he was like, oh, like, I need to go, and kind of, like, leave.
Oh.
Kind of, like, rushed out, kind of. It wasn't a super smooth transition. I remember it feeling very abrupt and kind of confused, because I was having a pretty decent time at that point.
Okay. How long was that date at that point?
It's probably, like, an hour total, start to finish.
Would you have wanted it to keep going?
I was open to another drink, I think, at that point.
And then do you remember, like, how it ended? Like, did you guys talk about seeing each other? Like, did he ever text again?
Yeah, so I remember he was like, oh, I need to go. And then we, like, both walked out of the bar, and then we were kind of in front of the bar, and I was, like, on my phone trying to, like, look up Uber, kind of, like, versus the bus, or, like, how I was going to get home. And he had also, like, pulled up his phone, and he kind of was just like, oh, my bus is here, and I have to go, and kind of just ran off. kind of like ended super abruptly. I don't really remember if we had talked about meeting up. I think we had said something about, oh, this was, like, nice and fun and whatever, like, you know, generic. I was kind of, like, thrown off by the, like, just running after the bus kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, maybe he's not into me. If I kind of get those going, I'm the kind of girl who will let the guy kind of show me that they're interested, so I didn't ever text him, and he never texted me, so we just never spoke again. Was it really necessary to catch that bus?
Like, could you waited 10 more minutes for the next one?
Yeah, to, like, just end the date smoothly. I think that's advice, like, if you
And
you should take to heart. Like,
what's your situation now? Are you single, or are you dating?
I'm still single. I'm dating. I've been on a few first dates in the past week, going on a few second dates next week, so we'll see how things progress there.
If there was a giant miscommunication with this and he was interested in going out again,
Without rushing to the bus.
Yeah, would you be open to that?
I think Jason's probably a really nice guy. I don't think he's the guy for me. That's what I think.
But you were willing to have a second drink with him, so there was enough fun in that first hour for you to possibly stay, right?
That's true. Yeah, you're right. Conversation was pretty natural and pretty free-flowing. Kind of interview-esque, but that's pretty typical on a first date. But,
yeah.
I don't remember, like, any awkward pauses or anything like that. And I think you kind of need some time to suss it out, get a good sense of somebody in, like, 1 hour. So I was open to, like, another 30, 40 minutes, suss it out a little bit more.
What's your reaction?
Yeah, several interesting points. But getting the drink before, I didn't want to be on my phone and just be sitting there. So I was like, why not get a drink?
Have something to do.
And I always pay for drinks, even if it's bites and drinks on a first date. So definitely, I'm not sure how that would cause, confusion.
I don't think that's
it's not you getting the drink first.
Okay.
Is that when she showed up, there was no clear indicator that you were getting the drink for her.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like free for all, it seemed like.
Okay.
So she wasn't sure if she should be paying for her own
And she
drink.
also said she didn't care if you purchased the drink. She wasn't like, oh, he has to. She just said it was an awkward start.
The first 30 seconds into a minute of a date, when we're getting, like, arranged in our seats, I definitely have a bit of, like, quietness to it. I should have been like, hey, nice to meet you. I got my Coors Light here. That's a bad choice. I got my Moscow Mule here.
Let me get you a drink.
Let me get you a drink. That's great advice. It was interesting. I think we talked a lot about work, probably 90% of my friends in San Francisco or at my current job, people are roughly anywhere from 3 to 6 years younger. I have a few friends older, but I could see at someone in a different stage in their life thinking, oh, maybe maturity level's different.
But I guess overall, like, were you interested in her? What was your vibe with her?
It was one of those dates where in my head I'll be like, do I want to ask him out on a second date here? I believe like she might have been busy that weekend, and I almost would write people off. Let's say this was a Tuesday night. I almost have a hard time thinking in San Francisco, people wanting to go on a second date 7 days later. So
Other assumption.
What is interesting about you thinking back about these dates is that you don't actually give us your opinion of them. You actually are more concerned about their opinion of you.
Oh.
So with
definitely.
girl number 2, we're going to ask again, were you interested in her?
I would have definitely grabbed another drink with her.
So why did you run for the bus?
I definitely feel like I'm programmed to a schedule at times. So you already saw how I like to, maximize my time and activities, friends, and all that. So I almost get the thought that a first date should be this long and
Interesting.
should possibly cut it off after an hour and leave like some mystery about it.
But were you running to another date, or you were just literally running for the bus?
Running home to watch the end of the Warriors game.
Oh my God.
I'm like, bathroom break, 4th quarter. Oh God. I kid.
Okay, so basically you were interested in extending this date hypothetically, going out with her again.
But why did you not ask her out again?
I know, and I'm hearing the feedback so far and seeing girls interested. I have this fear of the rejection text message, and already hearing 2 girls like me, and when I thought they were like, meh, decent dates, I'm like...
Yeah, I think that should bring to a theme that we saw.
Yeah.
Because this was a theme that we saw with them, but with others also, is that they felt that the short date indicated that
you weren't
weren't
interested. I would have felt the same way.
All the girls basically said that one drink is not enough to get to know someone. And they understand that the first drink, things might be awkward, and they are willing to give it more time. That was reoccurring.
As long as you're having a good enough time, you should extend it for at least another drink.
All of these women said that they felt like the date was cut short.
Abruptly.
Okay. And that to them signified that you were not interested. And then when you didn't follow up again, like afterwards, they also didn't think you were interested. There is still a notion that the guy follows up after the date. And when that doesn't happen, it feels like they're not interested.
What if like the girl was like, Jason, I'm having a great time. Can we do a second drink?
It's not always up to the guy to extend the date, but on the first date, you literally told the waiter no to the second drink, okay? Or at least according to her.
Please, no more.
No more.
Yeah.
And for the second date, the second girl, you ran to the bus. I think
that's what it is. They're already getting negative reinforcement. They're all like, you're also afraid to put yourself on the line. They're afraid to put themselves on the line.
And also, I think as a girl on a date, I can always feel when a guy wants to wrap it up.
Yes.
So maybe you were giving off that vibe like, oh, I need to catch this bus, or I'm going to cut this date short. That would prompt me not to ask for an extension.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next 3 girls we speak to, this theme didn't carry through to these girls because the dates were a little bit longer. Okay, so let's listen to girl number 3.
We exchanged a few text messages and then decided to meet at a bar that's just like right down the street from my house. He got to the bar a little bit before I did. I went to sit down next to him, introduced myself. We had one drink at that bar, and then we moved on to kind of my like little favorite neighborhood bar. We had some like fun conversation, nothing too serious. Seems to be a nice guy. Had a good personality, easygoing, easy to talk to. There was never like any really awkward, silent moments.
How long was that first date? How long did it last?
I think it was like 2 hours. I thought it went well. He walked me to my house and we said goodnight, and then I just never heard from him again.
Was there like a kiss or anything, or an awkward hug?
We kissed at one of the bars.
Okay.
So when you guys said goodbye that night, were you expecting to see him again?
Yeah, or at least to hear from him.
Would you have gone out with him again if you heard from him?
I think so. I think I'm pretty traditional in the sense that I would rather wait for a guy to reach out to me. It's not super progressive of me, I guess. It's just kind of how I operate, unless there was something like super magnificent about them where I couldn't wait to see them again. I guess maybe it wasn't super like memorable. It was a lovely evening. Like, we had fun. He seems to be like smart and kind.
How would you have rated the date on like a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably like a 7.
Okay, so that's pretty high. Yeah. If Jason called you up for a second date now, what would you say?
I would probably say you should have done that before you gave my number to DATEABLE. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be interested. It's been quite some time now. It just seems weird to me that he didn't reach out to me. And also, like, no follow-up. I feel like if there had been follow-up, you know, like even a week after the date, I would have been like, oh yeah, let's go out again.
Okay, thoughts?
Okay. I said I was more driven for a relationship. Sometimes I fall off the tracks, and I think with this girl, I was kind of going for more of a one-night stand or hookup. I definitely do a good job of accommodating to people, not for the hookup sense, just for being genuinely nice.
That was something that they did comment on.
Oh, yeah. I do a lot of research, but I remember getting in there. I arrived on time. I've been known to never arrive more than 2 minutes late on a date. And I got a drink first, but I was able to find a spot in the bar, very loud, and it was a little bit hard to hear. So that led me to going to another bar. And
so you broke the 1 hour rule.
I know. All my alarms
and the one drink rule.
Go figure. And yeah, I hate to like catch signals that like it was more of like fun or playful.
Oh, so more casual.
So did you break the rules because you didn't see potential on this one?
I think so.
Interesting. What were some of the signs that she was giving off that you felt like it was more casual?
She had talked about working remotely a lot, but working at bars often and being like, oh, I go to this bar at like 2 p.m. I know the bartender. It's nice because I can see my clients one day, but be here at a bar another. I'm like, that's interesting.
So high drinking.
Yeah. High drinking, bit more of a work hard, play hard. Very talkative.
Okay, so you still, I'm assuming you found her attractive because you guys kissed.
I found her attractive.
So why no follow-up, even if it wasn't a relationship?
I know. And
he's like, in retrospect.
What a great question again. I think I was more physically attracted than emotionally and physically. And I've often received these 3 words, no romantic connection, a lot with girls if I got the follow-up text. So I was like, we can have a good time in 2 to 3 hours. But do I really owe somebody a response? Or like maybe if they followed up, we could do something again. But yeah, I just figured with this time, you know, I had a lot of fun. We talked about all sorts of things like tattoos, crazy college stories, living in San Francisco, funny first dates. You know, it was a good time in the moment. But in San Francisco, do I owe somebody something?
I guess you don't owe them anything. What you're telling us is you had a great date in the moment, but then afterwards those feelings maybe disappeared and you didn't feel like it needed a second date.
Correct. I didn't run to the bus. I had 10 minutes to catch the bus. I enjoyed walking her back. I also thought, like, I'm not the type of guy that kisses often on a first date in a bar with people. I remember her even saying, I don't usually do this. And I was like, whoa, look at me. But I thought almost she'd invite me back in for...
so you thought this might be a one-night stand, and when it didn't go there...
When she said thanks.
Like, whatever.
Got it.
Yeah.
This explains so many of what I thought were great dates I've been on, where we kissed, he walked me home. I was like, he's definitely going to text me tomorrow. Okay. I never heard from them again.
I will throw in one of our other observations, because I think it's a good time for this, is a lot of the earlier girls that had an overall good time, and some of the ones that we're still going to reveal, they said the conversation was good. It was, you asked a lot of questions, you were good conversationalists, but it was very much date talk. It was like the basics, getting to know you, They didn't walk away with like a strong, like, this is Jason and he is different because of X, Y, and Z. And I will say this one of all of the people actually thought the conversation was the most interesting.
Because you weren't as calculated.
And
You were just
like you said, you were telling stories. You were just like acting like you were old friends more. It sounded like more like jovial. And like she also thought you were interested because you did kiss. Like I know you're saying you don't typically do it. But some of these other ones, maybe you're swinging too far on the pendulum of being too formal and not...
Yeah, too serious.
And not necessarily affectionate enough that they're basically just getting a vibe that you're not interested.
And you also weren't as concerned whether she liked you or not because you received that validation from the kissing and the flirting. So it didn't get in your head as much on this date when it did on the other dates when you didn't receive what you thought would be validation. That's super interesting.
That is really interesting.
She is definitely interested. All right, shall we go to the next one?
Let's
Girl
do it.
number 4.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our sponsor, ModCloth. With all the rain in California recently, I started looking for raincoats and found the cutest yellow raincoat at ModCloth. And then I started thinking about the spring and found so many pieces with a perfect pop of color. I'm kind of on a yellow kick lately, so everything I bought has some sort of yellow in it. So what are you waiting for? Hit the site and discover something uniquely you. This is the perfect time to stock up on dresses and swimsuits for the season ahead. With ModCloth, you won't ever have to worry about fit because they carry sizes from 00 to 28, and their team of mod stylists can hook you up with complimentary sizing and styling help. Special for Dateable listeners, get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. Just go to modcloth.com, that's spelled MODCLOTH.com, and enter the code DATEABLE at checkout. That's DATEABLE. This offer is valid for one-time use only and expires May 5th, so get on it. Again, go to modcloth.com and enter the code DATEABLE at checkout to get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. And now, back to the show.
All right, shall we go to the next one?
Let's
Girl
do it.
number 4.
We went to the Page first and got, I want to say a drink or maybe 2 drinks there. And then we went over to Horse Feather a little bit down the street and got another drink there. And just had good conversation. Nothing out of the ordinary that like popped out to me like anything like weird that he said or did. It was a pretty just getting to know you kind of first date. And he was a really like fun, loving guy. He was sweet, polite, which I liked. He just seemed genuine to me. He asked a lot of questions and listened, and then when I asked questions, he'd give answers or talk, tell stories. He was a good conversationalist. I enjoyed the time that I spent with him, but there were a couple things that came up on the date that just kind of made me think like maybe he's not like the right fit for me. I'm a pretty like free spirited, very like go with the flow kind of person, and he seemed to, like he mentioned at one point, and even in his profile, something about like how he's really clean, and like he made a point to like talk about how he never leaves a dish in the sink, and like really tidy person. And I don't know, I'm like kind of a hot mess, and I felt like he wanted like more together than I did.
So maybe he wasn't as laid back as you would be.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So I guess, how did the date end?
He said something about wanting to go mini golfing, and I was like open to seeing him again, but also like I wasn't like dead set on it, But then after the date ended, I really never heard from him again.
Wait, so he brought up a second date, and then what was the exact response you gave him?
I think I said something like, "Oh, I've heard that new one opened, so I'd be like willing to go." I was open to it. I think sometimes like first dates they can be kind of awkward, and I'm usually willing to like give them a second chance. I wasn't like I absolutely never want to see him again. I didn't feel like that. Like I said, he never asked me to go out again, so I just kind of like didn't reach out back to him after the date either.
Jason reached out like now and asked you out on a second date. What would you say?
I'd consider it. I'm kind of dating someone right now, so I probably would need to take that into account.
If you had to rate the date from scale 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Good 7 or...
Oh.
I'd say it was like an average first date, what you'd expect.
What's your reaction?
I was a little bit nervous right away. I think that's a good sign for me. We were talking about similarities in music. She was younger, and I'm 28 going on 29. Not that I use my Hinge age range or I fall too closely, but I would say probably -3, +3 with my age. So this was like
She felt a little younger.
Yeah, I was one of my friends, my go-to pre-date texter. She was like, "Oh, interesting. She's a little bit on the young side," but I was like, "Oh, I think why not?" There's a connection, which oftentimes you pick up so easily in text messages if they're talkative or not. And
so, did you like her? Again, she would define herself as free-spirited, and she didn't feel like you were on the same page. What's your reaction to that?
I was definitely attracted to her. I do remember, and I hate when this happens on dates, we start talking about whether it's like Burning Man or Coachella and sort of more along the lines of like recreational drugs. And then I think I'm very inquisitive on dates, so I'll like continue to ask questions, use those good people skills. But I don't know if I could relate the entire time.
That's okay. That's okay. That's gonna happen. Yeah.
I do remember she was relatively new to the Bay Area, San Francisco, recent college graduate. So I thought, provided, if it was more like scripted, I definitely was like, oh, these are my favorite spots in the city. Have you ever been to this bar? And when you were mentioning earlier, not getting to know the real Jason, the bubbly Jason, probably wasn't there. And
why did you not contact her again?
Another great question, you I thought it wasn't that I had another girl lined up. It was more like I'm really working on being more bold in this fear of rejection. To a certain point in my dating life, getting a text from the girl the next day after I responded, I was like, pull up my phone. I know what's coming. Often the Dear John or Dear Jane message, had a great time. I didn't really see anything. And as we've discussed here, most of these girls would have been open for a second date and kind of holding on to something in the past and it impacting. I didn't even take that leap.
I mean, this is clearly one of the themes that we saw, that they all were open to a second date. They all wanted you to contact them. It's definitely coming from the past.
And also your fear of rejection has put so much emphasis on how they feel about you, so much so that you've repressed your own feelings about them. You're like, even if I do like this person, my fear of rejection is not going to allow me to develop any more feelings for this person. And that's unfortunate because these were all great opportunities for you to see where these dates could go.
Saying I was more worried if they liked me, whether me giving it another try.
Yeah.
Okay.
You weren't going to reach out again, not because you weren't interested, but because you were so afraid of that rejection, Dear Jane, email or text. Not email.
I hope
That's
not.
An aggressive. I have so much to say to you. I just sent an email.
Oh my gosh.
But you were visualizing so much that rejection text that you
just didn't do anything.
You were just defeated.
I didn't even let myself sit on it.
No.
I would walk out, run out to the bus, and just
Again, preemptive.
Move on so quickly,
Yeah.
Right.
And no feedback, which is great now.
Last girl. Let's listen to what she has to say.
He suggested a pretty cool first date where he suggested going mini golfing. So I thought that was creative. And so when I first met him, he was a very big gentleman where he treated us both to mini golf, got us both a drink, and he asked a lot of questions about myself and was very polite. He was a good conversationalist, but I just didn't feel that initial spark, that chemistry that I'm looking for in a romantic partner. It felt more friendship. I thought objectively that he was a handsome guy. I just didn't find myself attracted, I guess, in the chemistry sense.
Was there anything about the date that stood out in your mind?
Where we went, where he picked to go, was really creative, and I liked that he did ask a lot of questions about me and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me and my life. But other than that, it seemed like your pretty standard, run-of-the-mill, good first date, but it just was missing that chemistry component for me.
How did the date end?
Well, we finished our round of mini golf, then we both called our own Ubers and said our goodbyes, and that was it. I didn't really expect to here, just because it felt like we didn't have that whole chemistry. Yeah, so we never texted to follow up or anything.
If he had texted, would you have considered meeting up with him again?
I'm honestly not sure. I think it's always nice when a guy follows up after the date, whether or not they had a good time or not, just to sort of check in, because I feel like ghosting's pretty common these days.
On a scale 1 to 10, how would you rate the date?
I'd say a 5, where it was good to get to know him for the time, I just think that we just didn't have that mutual chemistry and attraction on both ends, I think.
And if he reached out now to ask you on a second date, what would you say?
By now, just because we went out in October, and I think we were both a little lukewarm on the date.
Yeah.
I think the romantic part, that ship has sailed, but I always would be open to being friends.
Oh, I remember this one.
So, I hope so.
You know, being on my schedule, putting it into my calendar, I always would put an emoji with the activity we were doing on my phone. I'm just that much of it. So I had left work. It was a little bit out of the way, which was fine. So I believe we picked a time that was best for her commute. 30 minutes before the date, as I was making my way over, she had mentioned, is there any way we can move it an hour later? Possibly somewhere closer to me. I live in this area. And I had responded a bit like shaken by like this last minute change. She went back to the same plan, but it turns out I got there early. I had some tacos. I was texting a few friends.
Oh, that's awkward to be waiting for that long.
There. I think it was in the fall, so a little bit cold. If I had known maybe 2 hours before, would have been great. So I kind of like, and this might be just one of the types of examples, but I was a little bit like discouraged going into the date from this last second plan.
This is like a two-way exit interview, by the way.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I hope she's listening to
the second exit interview on the other side. Yeah.
I was sort of trialing out date spots, and I thought it was a little bit hard to have chemistry when we were moving from hole to hole. I would putt. I'm just like, let me focus. I need to make this. Pull my Tiger Woods and like.
I think as a first date, it's tough. I think as you've been on dates, it's a great date because it can be fun and playful. But I agree, if you're just trying to get to know someone, have a conversation, it is a tough one to
I forgot what I talked about on hole 2 when we from hole 1.
So many holes.
Yeah. I think 19.
Hole in one.
Yeah.
Let's hold that thought for a second. We'll get right back to it.
This episode is sponsored by Via. We all know there are things that can help set the mood in the bedroom, but did you know a little THC could also do that? Yes, Via has developed a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a low dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy called High Love. This gummy, wow, it will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. I've been pleasantly surprised by the High Love gummies because it is just the right amount of THC for me to have a good time without feeling sleepy. And hey, if THC is not your thing, Via also offers a wide array of other gummies without it. And everything legally ships in 50 states with discreet packaging directly to your door. So if you're over 21, you can get 15% off and a free pack of award-winning Dreams THC plus CBN sleep gummies with our exclusive code DATEABLE at viahemp.com. That's VIIAHEMP.com. Let the gummies work their magic. Head to viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE to receive 15% off and one free sample of their Sleepy Dream gummies. That's viahemp.com and use the code DATEABLE at checkout. Take your passion and pleasure to a whole new level with High Love from Via Hemp. This episode is made possible by Badlands Pets. As you all know, Mojo, my precious baby, is the reason why I found love in the first place. He made me feel love again. So I would do anything to ensure his health and longevity. And actress Katherine Heigl and I have that in common. She's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation. And after doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can look to improve any dog's health, and that's their food. So fortunately, she found that just by adding a few special superfoods to her dog's food, she saw huge transformations in their health. So she's made a 20-minute video explaining step by step how anyone can do the same thing to see incredible changes in their dog's health. I've definitely re-looked at what I'm feeding Mojo and making sure that, hey, he only has one life to live, and I want to make sure it's the best damn life. So if you want to keep your dog healthy and happy, go to badlandsfood.com/dateable and watch Catherine's video right now. Again, that's badlandsfood.com/dateable. Living with ADHD can be a challenge, and dating with ADHD is definitely a challenge. We've heard many of you say, but finding the right care and proper tools needed to succeed can be life-changing. Done is an online ADHD care platform that can get you all the resources you need to help manage your ADHD ADHD. Online visits, refills, and a 24/7 care team made for you. In just 1 minute, Dunn's online assessment can help kickstart your ADHD treatment journey. With experienced clinicians, worry-fill refills, and online visits, you can start getting personalized care as soon as today or tomorrow. So contact an expert team that can help you around the clock and get a personalized treatment plan just for you. Here's how you do it. Take a free 1-minute assessment and book an appointment with a licensed ADHD clinician as soon as the next day. Get continuous care, one-click refills, insurance coverage, and 24/7 care team support with Dunn for just $79 a month, and pharmacy copays as low as $0. Visit get.dunfirst.com/podcast to learn more. That's get.dunfirst.com/podcast to learn more. Dunn. Turn ADHD into your strength.
Okay, so did you want to see her again?
I was definitely physically attracted to her. Our difference in schedules and lifestyles. I was intimidated by her occupation, and that sort of almost led me to want to possibly give up on this and not give myself enough credit for where I am.
So you were into her, you just doubted yourself with it, and that's what prevented you from following up again?
This one, I'm going to say it's more 50-50.
Okay.
Don't really appreciate when someone arrives late to a date. Yeah.
All right.
Fair enough. I have a question for you. Does every social engagement outside of dates, do you set calendar invites?
Guilty, yeah. I even put morning gym tomorrow in my calendar.
Yeah. You're just a planner.
You're a planner.
Yeah, cooling down on that is probably
I wouldn't even say it's cooling down. I find that aspect of you endearing. I think sometimes the things that you think make you a little bit quirky or maybe a little neurotic are endearing for people.
Mm-hmm.
And for the right girl, she's going to think that's really cute and that's great.
Yeah, I think there's a line though. I think being a planner is awesome. And trust me, so many of our female friends, including ourselves, have been like, why can't our guys just get it together and be planners?
Plan shit.
Okay.
So that is a great quality. I think though where it becomes a little difficult is when it prohibits you from continuing on with something. Like if you're having a good time, feeling like, okay, I only marked 2 hours in my calendar, I gotta go run to the bus. One, not everyone's like me. So just because I think that the date needs to end at 9 and I'm tied to this time, doesn't mean that other people do. It could be just having a conversation and seeing where they're at.
Are you having a good time? Would you like another drink? I didn't even do that in any of my...
Exactly. It's super easy. Yeah.
You can just say, I'm having a great time.
Right.
I would like to continue. Would you? Because you're the one driving the situation. You're not so much like, are you having good I'm having a good time.
Right.
Do you want to come along for this ride or not?
A lot of the women said that even the 2 to 3 hour dates, I think they were slightly better because there's more time. But a lot of them said like, oh, it's the first date. I know that I'm not going to really get to know this person. Like they've kind of choked it up that that's the reality of first dates. So the people that were just cut short, they just didn't think there was enough time.
Yeah.
And they also took it as a sign that you weren't interested.
And I'm the one who took it as there was no chemistry.
Right.
I have to realize, and it's so easy when you can text somebody or message somebody on an app and talk about just about anything. You're suddenly in person with a stranger.
Yeah.
That's going to take some time, more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
There will be awkward pauses, and somebody might be a little bit uncomfortable.
Yep. And I think that brings to conversation too. It's clear that you asked really great questions and are conversational, and that's great. I think the one area that people mentioned was like things stood out per se, and they would have maybe been more open to making that first move to you if there was like, it was an incredible connection and just the best date they had. And I think a lot of them felt like it was an average to good date. So maybe bringing like how you are with friends and like other people in your lives to those dates. Like I know personally, like some of the best dates I've had is when you walk in and it feels like you've known that person forever and you're not asking like where are you from? What do you do? Like you can fold that in, but like just kind of telling stories like you did with that one date that you didn't really care if it went anywhere.
Right.
She actually ranked you probably the highest in terms of just overall conversation fun.
That's good advice for everyone. According to all of the 5 women we spoke to, it seems like people's standards for a first date are very low.
Yes.
Okay, they're kind of like, it was good enough for me to go on a second date. It doesn't take much to have a good enough first date. All you have to do is stand out a little bit for that first date to be great. And some ways to do that is, I always think that your first time meeting someone in person should be a continuation of your online messaging.
Yep.
So where are you from? What do you do? That should be all out of the way by the time you see each other in person. And so by the time you go on this in real life date, it should be like, so why did you get into this occupation that you're in? Why did you move to San Francisco? That's more about the why. And that's where people connect, is more about why do you, Jason, chose these life choices. And that's how I'm going to know the different layers of who you are.
I second that. I definitely agree. Like, get the small talk out of the
way. Yeah.
Because like you said, sometimes you only get one date, or maybe if you asked for a second, you would get it. But,
I wish I knew this.
There are times that you do only get one date.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that you maximize that and like make it something memorable. So ideally you follow up, but even if you don't, they feel compelled to follow up because it was such a great date.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And I think we hear this a lot, is that people have great conversations on an app because it's easy to. You have time to think of something witty. You can talk about random shit. So if you can bring in that same personality you are on a dating app to in real life, you are going to have a great date. That's where that chemistry comes from.
I definitely want to work on follow through, but is it too desperate to ask for if they're interested on a second date as you're working, or as you're in the bar, as you're walking out of the bar, 10 minutes from now when you get home? Or
no,
or over
women
text?
love it.
I thought I was like
women
so needy if I would.
No.
Why are you so afraid of coming off? This is so like psychologically, we're also self-referential. So all these insecurities you have are actually criticisms you have of yourself. In the grand scheme of things, nobody thinks about you that much. Nobody's thinking, oh my God, Jason's so desperate right now for asking me on a second date while on first date. No.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit.
No, she's more thinking, oh, that's very nice. Like, that's pretty assertive.
Or, like, what do you have to lose? I think it's like the fact that you did nothing with some of these and then they could have gone somewhere is more to lose than if you had hypothetically messaged them like right after the date and said like, when can we see each other? I had such a great time. Or even on the date. The worst case scenario is they say they weren't feeling it.
There's no way you can have chemistry with everyone in this world. It's just not going to happen. You already have a leg up, okay? You just showed us your Hinge profile and how many matches you've had.
So many.
I've never seen a guy with that many
Neither
matches.
have I. I think it's before you meet them, you have more confidence for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just, I like
because you have nothing to lose, right? Because you don't know them. They're not a real person. You just need to carry that swagger into real life. Assume that they are interested unless they tell you that they're not. And if they're not, then no loss.
For all these women, they've said the only thing that's holding them back from seeing you again is time. Too much time has passed. Just a suggestion. Maybe you just reach out to girl number 2 and see if she's open to seeing you again. Why not? Right? And just see what happens. We'll do a follow-up episode.
And like Julie said, what do I have to lose? If I'm not making these actions, I'm just adding more of these thoughts in my head, and I'll continue to keep at it. Yeah.
So I guess after this reveal, how are you feeling about the feedback?
I feel like I need to go on a date right after this. Hi, nice to meet you.
You want to put it all to practice now, right?
Yeah, so much of this confidence that I didn't even know I had in real life.
That's the thing. I think we all think the worst. When in reality, I think most people are open to getting to know you more. You're so in your head and you're so methodical and all about self-discipline that you forgot to feel things on these dates. You forgot to like reveal. What about this? Let's put it all to good use. What would you do differently on your next date?
Agree about making somebody comfortable from the start, kind of checking on them if they're having a good time, or even saying, I'm having a really great time. If it's not too late, would you want to grab another drink?
Perfect.
Like, this is a good, like, stepping stone for a second date.
I think that's the other thing is, like, if you get validation on the first date, asking for the second date is very natural.
Yes.
And one drink definitely plays into the shot in the dark mentality.
Yeah.
They're really confused. I'm even confused with myself looking back on it, why I would dash out the door.
We were very confused.
I'm never going to run to a bus
that girl,
anymore.
how confused she was. I mean, that could be your intro to her. Be like, I can't believe I dashed out to the bus. Can we please go out again? Like, I want a second chance. Done.
I agree. There really is nothing better in that evening than getting to know a fresh face.
Yeah. Dating should be fun, right?
Right.
It should be fun. You should leave a date thinking, that was really fun, even if there was no chemistry. I would also say this, and I think this goes for everyone, is that if you invite someone on a date, you almost want to look at like you've invited them to your house. So how would you treat them as the host of this party? For two. So if they come to this bar, you're like wanting to make them feel comfortable, get them a drink. You initiate the conversation, drive the conversation because they're a guest in your house, right?
And I would never say such cold or bare questions like, where are you from?
Yeah.
Where do you work? How long have you been there? Like when I hear those questions at a party, I'm just like, I need to go grab a drink and find somebody else to chat to. Who immediately,
exactly.
I guess it's pretty fine to just be funny right off the bat or like, that's a connection.
I think this goes, I'm going to kick off takeaways because I think what I've been thinking this whole time is, especially with the losing the date talk, because you are yourself and someone doesn't like it, then you've learned immediately if you're compatible or not. But if you have date talk that's just basic conversation, you both walk out of there just being like, I know about them like factually, but I don't really have any opinion of them. And I think that's what happened a lot of the times is it was a good date, but it wasn't a great date. And it's better to have a great date or a bad date in a way, because then at least you know someone's in with you or out with you.
Absolutely. My takeaway is if you have to ask yourself if that's okay to say or do on a date, then you're way in your head.
Yes.
If you have to say, oh, is it okay to do this? Or ask for a second date on a first date. Is it okay to say, I'm nervous? Stop questioning yourself. And the second takeaway is we've talked about this before, we have this win-lose mentality when it comes to dates. I want to win her over. I want to be the winner in this situation. Why can't dates be a win-win situation? A win-win situation doesn't necessarily mean there's a connection and you're going to go on several dates. A win-win situation is, I'm getting something out of this, and she's getting something out of this, something positive. I've learned something new. I had fun on this date. I tried out a different bar on this date. Right. That's a win. And what am I providing for her that she's also winning? Those are all wins. How can we make dates win-win situations as opposed to winning someone over?
That's wonderful, and completely open yourself to being a listener.
This is the thing why Julie and I do not like rules for dating, because a lot of those books will say, ask lots of questions on dates.
Yeah.
I actually say the opposite, because sometimes when you ask a lot of questions, you don't listen to the answers.
Yeah.
You're just going through,
I'm ready for the next one.
You're just going through a list.
I think there's two extremes. You don't want to be the person that has nothing about someone, but I think having a free-form conversation, like it's an old friend or someone you're like just shooting the shit with. Like I think people oddly remember conversations about nothing more than the generic, like, what do you do? Where are you from? All the date talk.
You just have to turn on your curiosity. If you ask a question and you have another question lined up, yet her answer is so intriguing, you have other questions about this topic.
Right.
Ask those questions.
Or if you have a story that you can think of because of that. Related. It doesn't have to be question, answer, or story and then question. Like it can just flow.
And my very last takeaway for you, Jason, and for me as well, and for everyone, nobody has dating figured out.
No.
So don't go into dates thinking, I'm making all these mistakes and she's not. From your feedback of all 5 girls, all of them could have done something differently or better, right? Nobody has this shit figured out. So it's actually better to bond over that on a date. Like, I don't know. I've been dating for a few years, but I still get nervous. That's a great way to just like break down the barriers. Yeah. I still get nervous. You know, sometimes I still question myself.
You're a human. It shows that you're a person. Like, you're not like this, like, I'm like, have it all figured out. I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, all of that.
Yeah.
I think the last thing is that people just get so held back by rejection. And it's easier said than done because I know I've been there as well.
Yeah.
And this fear of rejection, fear of like things not working out. And yeah, it sucks. No one's going to say it doesn't suck.
Yes.
It really sucks to get that text. But you also kind of have to look at it like, okay, this person wasn't a match for whatever reason. They just weren't the right fit.
Yeah.
It shouldn't hold me back from meeting that match. Because if you don't ever make the move because of rejection, you'll be rejected because you didn't make any move.
Every rejection just brings you one step closer to that person who's right for you.
Right.
So it's actually better to have these rejections. They're bringing you closer.
It definitely has held me back from being in a relationship. And this is such a weird sort of sentence that someone will tell me, but they'll say, Jason, look at all your matches. Jason, you're such a good-looking guy. Why aren't you in a relationship? Or now I know it's...
We know the answer.
We know
you
the
didn't
answer.
follow up and you ran away on the bus.
And the whole idea of fear of rejection,
Yeah.
running to a fear
Yeah.
of even being a bit more in the moment. And
Imagine if you went on a date with someone just like you, who's like, I need to end the date at 1 hour, even though if I'm having a good time, and I'm going to run to the bus, and I'm going to say, I need to do this or that. Imagine if you went on a date with someone just like that, then you two would never get anywhere because you're so like in these rules. Why don't we validate each other more? If you're having a good time on a date, say it. If you get home and you think, I really want to let him know I had a great date, text it. Why is it so hard for us to let it out? Why are we holding it back? So, it goes two ways. One is you don't need to look for the validation, but also two, we should give more validation.
giving is the only thing I can control. I've never even thought about saying, I'm having a really great time tonight. I've never said that on a date.
I think it's the games. Like,
It's the
I
games.
am definitely in my early 20s to late 20s as victim of the games. And as soon as I drop the games, that's when things started falling into place.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I 100%
totally.
think the games is what is holding you back with
And
this.
like you said, if your goal is a relationship, playing games to start out, that's like nowhere near being authentic
No.
and wanting somebody to be in your life.
And if someone is holding you to those games, they are not ready for a relationship.
You're just scam artists. You're just scamming each other.
Got you.
Right.
Got you.
You weren't even giving them neutral signs. You were giving them signs you were not interested.
Yeah.
I know, and you two are so smart.
I know.
PhD in
The
dating.
exit interviews. You see those themes
I like
that
this.
come
I got
up.
a new job right when I walk out the door. Confident dater, and if I ever thought I had dating fatigue, which I think everybody does, and it's really natural, and a lot of
especially
people
if you're
won't
doing
share it.
quantity of
Yeah.
dates and you're getting rejected.
I
it's
feel
bound
on
to
renewal
happen.
already.
Great.
Good. I mean, this is what we do. We changed lives here at Dateable.
Rate, review, and subscribe.
This was a great conversation. Thank you for being honest with us and being open to this experiment. Most people would not be. This is some scary shit.
Yeah. But if you want to, come to our website.
Come to our website.
/coaching. We're willing to do this experiment for others as well.
Yes, we offer this as a service to do exit interviews for you as a neutral third party.
Yeah, and it's not as scary. I think what everyone thinks is they're going to be like, oh, I was so unattracted to that person. They're so ugly. All these really physical things that really hurt. And the reality in that book I mentioned, that actually was never the case.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they went on a date, unless you're totally catfishing them, the fact they went on a date with you in the first place means that they were mildly attracted to you. It's usually something else that's going on.
Everybody who heard I had the idea to come into the Dateable studio was like, are you going to be frightened? Are you going to walk away with this, very upset? And I'm like, everything you said, I have like a warm feeling running through me. And hearing that I didn't have a connection with one of them, I need to get used to that because as you said, it's really part of first date.
And
but
you also said that you might not have felt a connection with her because she stood you up.
I
That's
know.
okay.
fine.
Right.
Yeah.
it's normal.
None of us are in pageants here. We're not trying to win some pageant.
Right.
So
you're not going to have a connection with everyone.
You're just trying to find a connection with like one person for now, right? It's just constructive feedback. But I think what's important is, because I did the exit interview as an experiment 10 years ago on my own by myself with 3 of the guys I dated. It didn't work out as well because they're going to sugarcoat a lot of their feedback and they weren't as honest. So it's nice to have a third party who has never met you to do this because then that becomes constructive feedback that you can use for future
and we
dates.
can push them a little further too.
Yeah, we were very good at pushing. If you like to be a guest on our show, we're also still booking guests for season 8. If you have a story you want to share or a topic you want to discuss, let us know. All right. Thanks again, Jason, for being in our studio.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to the 5 lovely women who are also open to this experience. If any of you girls want to do an exit interview for someone you've dated, let us know.
Be a chain of exit
A chain of exit interviews. The
There will be
exit
lines out the
interview
doors.
chain.
Enlightened daters all over.
That would be fantastic. That would be my dream.
Have you met with Julian Yue? Have you had an interview yet?
It's like up in the air with George Clooney when people know they're getting fired. If Julie and I call you, oh shit. Here comes an exit interview.
Dateable girls.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up.
Stay dateable.
Your action item for this week is to do an exit interview with someone you want feedback from. It's only through feedback we can learn and grow. So as scary as it may seem, why not tap into that information for personal development?
And if you're uncomfortable doing the exit interview yourself, understandable, have a friend do it for you, or heck, get us to do it. Check out dateablepodcast.com/coaching. Want to continue the conversation? First, tag us in any post with hashtag #StayDateable. Then head on over to our website, dateablepodcast.com. There you'll find all the episodes, as well as articles, videos, and our coaching services with vetted industry experts. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. To connect with us, find Dateable Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also downloadable on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Your feedback is valuable to us, so don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. And most importantly, remember to stay dateable.